I'd like to tell you a little story about my journey through the educational system as an Algonquin First Nations person. I am from a small Algonquin community near Perth, Ontario. I struggled in school. For years, my family had taught me how to learn, how to experience, how to foster my own weaknesses and my own strengths and grow on my own. The Western schooling system was very different. Knowledge was thrown at me from every direction. I couldn't connect to anything. I didn't know how to learn or how to study in this way. I couldn't see cultural relevance or how what I was learning could help me or my community. Not to mention the impacts the residential schools still had on me, my family, and my community. I had no one to lean on, no one to help me grow in my cultural identity. I didn't have a role model. I had no one who went through the same experience, no one to ask questions about what it means to be an Aboriginal person in the academic world. I was confused, but I figured it out. I learned, I grew, I became who I was today. But many people weren't as lucky as I was. 60% of children living on reserve won't graduate. It could take 28 years to close the educational gap. Canada's tuition is ridiculously high, and you think you can't afford it? Statistics Canada says the average annual income for an Aboriginal person living on reserve is $14,000. That's $6,000 below the poverty line. An Aboriginal person living off reserve is 3 times less likely to receive a post-secondary degree than anybody else in Canada. And that's just people living off reserve. People on reserve are 5 times less likely to receive a post-secondary education than anyone else in Canada. We've all been told since we were young to get a job, get an education, and make enough money to live comfortably, but that's not possible for everybody. Aboriginal unemployment rates are twice as high. Overcome the Gap is launching an Indigenous mentorship program. We want to connect Indigenous students at MAC with Indigenous children in primary and secondary schools all around Canada. We want to provide advice on how to learn and how to study. How to think critically and how to connect to everything learned on a spiritual and cultural basis. We want to foster the growth and uniqueness of each Indigenous child, allowing them to develop strong roots in the academic world. We want to provide all the resources, all the stories, tools, and advice to make this journey as memorable and smooth as possible for Aboriginal children. We want to provide exactly what I needed growing up. A teacher, a leader, a role model, someone I could talk to. Indigenous people bring a new perspective, new ideas, new ways of thinking, and innovation to education and the workplace. It could take 28 years to close this gap, but let's join hands and close it together.
Under the stars we go, over the mountains and under